I saw those two words in the paper this morning, and my God, how they take me back. All that was 8 years ago, almost to the day. I remember my dad wanted my analysis of the situation. My mother just wanted me to come home, but I didn't want to come home. I was enchanted. Enchanted by that dark and mist-blown strawberry spring, and by the 10 shadow of violent death that walked through it on those nights 8 years ago. The shadow of Springheel Jack. In Buffalo, they call it a strawberry spring. No one knows why. It's just a phrase that old-timers use. They say it happens once every 8 or 10 years. At UB, the strawberry spring began on the 16th of March, 2010. A junior named John Dancy, on his way back to his dormitory, screamed into the fog, dropping books on and between the sprawled legs of a dead girl lying in the shadowy corner of the Animal Sciences parking lot. Her throat cut from ear to ear, but her eyes open and almost seeming to sparkle as if she had just successfully pulled off the funniest joke of her young life. Dancy, an education major and a speech minor, screamed and screamed and screamed. The next day was overcast and sullen, and we went to classes with questions eager in our mouths. Who? Why? When do you think they'll get him? And always the final thrilled question, did you know her? Did you know her?
Yeah, one of my roommate's friends dated her last semester.
Yeah, I think I had art class with her. I don't know.
Yeah, I know her. She lit a cigarette for me one time.
We all knew her. Her name was Gail Sermon. She was an art major, she wore glasses, and was well liked. But her roommates hated her. She had never gone out much, even though she was one of the most promiscuous girls on campus. She had been a vivacious girl who talked little and smiled seldom. She had been pregnant, and she had leukemia. She was a lesbian who had been murdered by her former boyfriend. It was Strawberry Spring, and on that morning of the 17th of March, we all knew Gail Sermon. It was Strawberry Spring, and no one walked by themselves through the half-academical, half-fantastical campus that night. The fog had come again.
Yo, they got him. They fucking got him.
They got who?
Carl Amalera, Gail's ex-boyfriend.
Really?
Yeah, everybody on campus is talking about it. Apparently they got him a few hours ago.
Oh.
You alright?
Yeah, I'm just disappointed is all.
Why?
Because with all this hype, you would think the guy would have a better name.
You're a piece of shit, you know that? I'm gonna go spread the news. I'll talk to you later, man.
The fog came again that night. Not on little cat's feet, but in the improper silent sprawl. I walked that night. I had a headache and walked for air. For me, that was one of the most beautiful nights I can remember. The people I passed under the hallowed streetlights were murmuring shadows, and all of them seemed to be lovers, walking with hands and eyes linked. I walked until nearly midnight, thinking to myself, who is to say that one of these shadows was not the man or the thing that came to be known as Springheel Jack?
What the fuck? What are you doing? Turn that off!
There was another murder that night, and the word was Carl had not left his cell all night. The victim's name was Anne Bray, and this time whoever killed her took her head. Until the time of her death, she had been an editor of the school newspaper, a beauty pageant runner-up, and an overall brainy girl. And now she was dead. Worse than dead. I walked to my afternoon classes like everyone else, nodding to people I knew and saying hi with a little more force than usual, as if that would make up for the close way I studied their faces, which was the same way they were studying mine. There was someone dark among us, as dark as the paths which twisted across the mall, or wound among the 100-year-old oaks on the quad in the back of the gymnasium. We looked into each other's faces and tried to read the darkness behind one of them. For a long time after he was gone, I could only look out the window, and even after I had opened my book and started in, part of me was still out there, walking in the shadows, where something dark was now in charge. That night, Adele Parkins was killed. He killed her and left her propped behind the wheel of her Subaru Impreza, to be found the next morning, and they found part of her in the back seat and part of her in the trunk, and written in blood on the windshield. This time, fact instead of rumor were 2 words: ha ha. A week later, the college president made an announcement. He pushed spring break up by a week. Everyone had to leave the campus. At that point, no one wanted to be there anyway. They called it Strawberry Spring, and no one knew why. But it was an evil time, a lying time that only comes once every 8 or 10 years. Springheel Jack left with the fog. From that day forward, people tried to put him off as a distant memory. That year was the year I graduated. The next year was the year I got married. The next, I got a good job in a local publishing house. I had a child, a young boy who would soon be almost school age. Life had been good. I should have known it wouldn't have stayed that way. For Strawberry Spring had come again. This morning's paper says a girl was killed on campus. She was found in some bushes next to the academic building. She was not all there. My wife is upset. She wants to know where I've been all night. I cannot tell her, because I can't remember. All I remember is the fog. I've been thinking about that night. The night my head was hurting, and I just kept thinking about my trunk and why I was afraid to open it. My wife has been crying. She thinks I was with another woman. Oh God. I think I was too.